Good afternoon. It's 11:53 on a Wednesday. Sorry, it's Friday. How would I think it was a Wednesday? It's Friday and it's gorgeous weather here in Sweden. We are having a heat wave and I look forward to jumping on in the pool maybe after lunch. So if you have been following me for some time or if you've been working with me, you know that I'm a strong believer of challenging thoughts that don't serve us. And these are so automatic. We have so many thoughts in our head. We have 70 to 80,000 thoughts per day. And the point is that we don't need to entertain them all. And I think the other very important point is that often we are mixing circumstances with opinions. So we're not being clear of what is the real neutral facts here that anybody that could come in and look at the same situation would describe it similarly versus how is your interpretation. I think we're not really trained so well in differentiating those, and I don't think it's helpful sometimes. So I'm going to give you some techniques today to tackle those and really become much more aware of your thoughts and deconstruct them, particularly those thoughts that come automatically, that come repeatedly in your mind, and decide, do I want to keep thinking that thought, or I just want to let it go and just pass by? So the point is that this is really about developing cognitive agility and challenging yourself. And we do it by examining our thoughts, by becoming your observer on life. I've been talking about becoming the observer of our own behavior a lot. And I really think it's interesting to develop that curiosity, that critical thinking towards ourselves, not critical negative, but critical constructive. So really with the aim and with the desire to help us evolve and be more aware of what's going on in our head. So the first thing is to practice this deconstructing and putting our thoughts on trial is really around writing down the thoughts. So I'm a big advocate of journaling, particularly when we want to be at the early days. I mean, you can do it the rest of your life probably, but particularly in the beginning, if you haven't practiced observing your thoughts, it's so useful and so helpful to actually write them down. When the thoughts are just fighting for attention in your head, it's really much more difficult to differentiate and distinguish them and look at them individually, as opposed to writing them down on a piece of paper or a notepad where you can really relate to them and look at them individually. And I would like you to think in particular about a situation that you are a bit stressed about. It might be something that is quite recent, so maybe in the last 7 days, in the last week, or maybe in the last 5 days, since we are wrapping up our working week, unless you're working in Dubai and those places where today's already holiday and weekend. But otherwise, most of us in some other countries, we're still working today. And I think it's interesting then to look at the week that is about to close and think, all right, is there some situation that actually I felt quite stressed about it? And without filtering yourself, you really want to write down each thought that you have that is part of that situation. And you want to write them in individual lines. Now, some methods of journaling tell you to maybe put a timer and really write down for 5 to 10 minutes. Some other methods say that you should write 3 full pages. Every time I do journaling, I don't usually fill more than 1 page. But of course, if there is something specific and stressful, you really want to get it all out. And you want to give yourself more than just 2 minutes, because you want to go that level deeper, not just staying and get satisfied at the first superficial thought, but you really want to not filter yourself and write down all the thoughts that you have around the situation. And the beautiful thing is that the point is that you're not going to leave any trace of that paper. So you can trash it and burn it, whatever, delete it if it's digital. So you really want to filter yourself. Nobody's looking. So write down everything that you have, all the thoughts that you have around that situation. And here I'm going to give you some questions you can ask yourself when you're thinking back and looking back at that situation. What happened, right? typical questions, journalistic style. What did really happen? And what were your thoughts? What were my thoughts about the people that were involved in that situation? And you want to also maybe doing it like creating columns in the piece of paper, so really write down all the people that were involved and start really writing down what did I think of that person in that particular circumstance. What were my thoughts about the subject matter? And again, start writing down all the things. And here's so interesting, when I coach people on these topics, you really start digging into things that happened maybe the week before or a month ago, and actually, because there's traces of those thoughts still somewhere in your head, the reason you're thinking something today is actually not necessarily specific to what happened in that situation, but you're actually referring back and accumulating those frustrations that happened way before that. So you really want to be aware of what are all the thoughts that are involved here that might be in the moment, but also maybe inherited from early situations. And what are your thoughts about the future as it relates to the situation? So really thinking about what is it that I'm feeling and thinking in the situation, about the situation? Because this is also revealing a lot of your state of mind. You really want to be understanding, have you been closing down? Was there a conflict and you're thinking, I now something's broken, it's over. So you really want to be honest with yourself, how you're thinking about the future of this particular distressful situation you've gone through. And then finally is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how do you feel about the situation as a whole? Where, the lower the number, the more negative you feel about the situation, and actually the higher the number, the more positive. You might have gone through something that's quite stressful, but it doesn't linger. I mean, your resilience is amazing. So, you actually bounce back pretty fast, and you actually think, oh, it's already dusted away, and you can move on. You're very positive. So I think it's really interesting to be honest with ourselves and evaluate how do I feel about the future? How do I feel about the situation now for the future? Am I very positive? Am I very negative about it? Or we're somewhere in between? And so now you have this long list of thoughts, right? If you follow those questions, you probably have maybe at least one, but maybe 2 pages filled. And so for each thought, I love Byron Katie's approach of miming those thoughts. And this, the techniques I'm giving here is very much inspired by that, very similar. So you want to be looking at these thoughts, and you want to be really noting down how much are those really neutral facts versus what is my opinion. And I know that sometimes it's really difficult to do that because you feel like, oh, but that's the truth. And I really want you to, you don't need to justify to anybody. It is really with yourself. And think about if somebody came in and looked at the situation, would they describe it in the same way? Or is that just a thought? And so look at the words you're using also when it's written down. What words do you use? And that will tell you how much objectivity is there versus how much judgment and thoughts and opinion is involved. So a statement like, I'll never get promoted, for instance. That's not a fact. That's your thought. The fact might be, I'm applying for a promotion, or I have been promoted 6 months ago. That's a fact, right? But the word never is what loads you with your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts, your opinion. So that's really the type of analysis you want to do. And only this will give you an amazing awareness of how much actually you have agency over how you feel, about how much you actually have accepted by default that those things are circumstances, as if there was no other way to look at those situations. And this is really the opportunity for you to look at that and differentiate what is the loaded thoughts here versus what is the opinion that I have of this circumstance. And so So then for everything that is a thought, you want to start mining it. You want to start writing down all the evidence, proving it. How do I know that this is true? What are the evidence? Can I be 100% sure that this is true? And really start saying, how can I be sure that is true? What are the evidence? And you write down, right? You take a new piece of paper, and you number the list of thoughts that you have, and on 2, 1, you say, okay, these are the 3 evidence that I have that prove that that thought is true. But then you're also going to think about, what are the 3 evidences that I have that actually the thought might not be true? That is an opinion, and that it could actually be interpreted, the situations can be interpreted in a very different way. So is the thought based on beliefs and not facts? Is really what you want to be investigating here. And what's the source of that belief? Where is it grounded and rooted? How credible is that source? And what is the possible misinterpretation that I'm making here? Very much really taking ownership and responsibility of wanting to open up to the possibility that maybe I'm misinterpreting things here. Maybe there's a different way to look at this situation. And then afterwards, you want to look at the exactly same situation, and you want to think, okay, now that I've done and I've gone through all this analysis, how do I feel? Again, 1 very negative and 10 very positive. And I really want you to see, did anything shift? Because most of the time you will actually feel first very relieved, because this exercise of just writing down and observing and understanding and taking some time for self-reflection really is an amazing relief in itself. But also you're much more optimistic, because you gave the opportunity to look at things and mining thoughts that were limiting, thoughts that were holding you back. Now, I'm not advocating you do that for everything that happened, all the stressful situations that happened. But if there is a situation that really upsets you, that is impacting how you show up, do this exercise. And I would encourage you to do it at least once for a situation, for you to see yourself by yourself. Look at how amazing impact it has on me, on how I feel, how differently and better I feel about the situation now. And let me know how it goes. I wish you a wonderful end of week. If you're already in the weekend, enjoy the weekend, and I'll see you